Financial freedom is not about being rich, it's about having options. For example, let's say you're on $500,000 a year. That's great, but if you're spending money on all these things that suck at you, like sports cars, big mortgages, private education, whatever it is, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you can retain. And I say this because I know so many people who are rich, but they are what we call rich broke. They make a lot of money, but at the end of the month, they're still broke because they waste their money on things. So financial freedom is really having new ways, because people are chasing money without realizing what they actually want. For example, do you want nice things or do you want more freedom? In fact, most of you, if you move to a different country, then the living expenses would be different. For example, I know a lot of people that they go from UK, they move to Thailand, or they go from UK and they move to Malaysia, for example. And by moving to these places, the cost of living is lower. So imagine right now you're making money in pounds or US dollars and you're spending it in ringgits. So it's like 5 to 6 times that currency. So just by changing location, you can actually have more options, you have more freedom. You also need to define your freedom number. Like, what's the most important number to you right now? When I started in real estate, I wanted to replace my income. I wanted to make sure that if I can just make an extra £3,000 per month, then I can quit my job. It's very interesting because when I do the calculation, I wanted to buy a property and rent it out and make £300 to £400 per property. So 3,000 divided by 400, that means I only need 7.5 houses, call it 8 houses. When I think about how all this stuff is done and how I put it together, I think about the number that you need for that point of financial freedom. You actually have to define your freedom number. As you listen to me and you hear me and you read this, what is that freedom number for you? And don't say, oh, but I need 20,000 a month. Yeah, that's with all of your expenses. But actually, if you look at the bare minimum, how much it costs to eat, how much it costs to have a roof over your head, how much it costs for your kids to have an okay education, then really that is the freedom number. You see, passive income is the path, but discipline is the vehicle. So for example, a lot of people build one stream of income, right? Most of that income is to get a job, work for somebody else, and that's what you get. And by the way, nothing wrong with having a job if you've got other things around there. We're producing multiple streams of income. For example, I do a lot of real estate investing. I buy property as an investment. And how do I make money from property? I buy that property. Typically, I'll buy it below its market value. If it's worth $1 million, for example, I'll buy it for 200,000 less, for example, 20% below. And by the way, people go, well, John, these deals don't exist. Trust me, they do. And I have a lot of them. It's just people don't know where to look. But then I also have people that ask me, well, John, how do you even get started in real estate? So then your brain becomes the discipline, the vehicle. So that means your brain needs to go somewhere where people can consume that information. For example, so I have a membership site called success.club, and it's all the things to do with success. Comes down to your mindset, comes down to the tactics, comes down to the strategy, comes down to automation, and comes down to your network. These are the 5 things. So everything that I do, I kind of take that and I put that into an area where people are able to absorb that information. Basically, instead of me having to talk about it all the time, it goes into one place where people can get the most updated things. That is another path. And people always ask me about, well, John, how do you invest in property? So I just put it into one place, then people can learn about that. Now, of course, you've got AI that can allow you to do that as well. Then I look at the investment. So actually, when we look at income, remember, Money Unlocked is about how do we make money, how do we retain the money, and then how do we multiply the money. And the reason why you need all 3 is because the way you earn income is almost like an ecosystem. For example, when you make an investment and you have something called a liquidity event, i.e. you exit from a company, you sell a piece of real estate, you sell a company, you take a company public, you have shares in a company, these then pay you back and ends up becoming passive income. That's why the vehicle is actually disciplined to be able to do this. Another thing is, why do people actually never achieve financial freedom? It's what we call the lifestyle creep. For example, income increases, lifestyle increases. But actually, the secret to success is how do we actually do something in a way that, number 1, allows our income to increase, but number 2, doesn't allow our lifestyle to increase. So when we talk about a lifestyle creep, this is the biggest mistake people make, because they're always looking at all the things that they can do, what a bigger house they can buy, a faster car they can buy. Like, they're putting the money into things, they're basically wasting money. So the rule is only put your money into something that is losing money, that is produced from your passive income. That's where financial freedom comes, because Otherwise, if you keep using active income to do it, then eventually the active income runs out. Whereas when it's more passive, remember we've talked about what passive is we create the vehicle, and the vehicle then produces the result in order for us to make more money. And it comes down to these three things. Three key skills to build freedom. This is what I talk about in Success.club. Is number one, the ability to be able to sell. Now that's not just selling a product or selling a service, it's the ability to sell yourself, sell your idea. When you have any debate, to sell your perspective, to sell your philosophy, to sell your values, to sell your products, to sell your service, to sell your brand. When we're able to communicate and sell, then money will always come to you. Money will always be unlocked. In fact, the easiest way you can unlock money is to learn how to sell yourself. Most people don't know how to sell themselves. So you have to learn how to sell yourself. You have to learn how to position yourself. You have to learn how to get other people to see you at the different level. The second thing is marketing. We have to learn marketing. The best known beats the best. And I always say this, like most people that have a voice like Mariah Carey, but no one's ever heard you sing before. So the key is to make sure that people can hear your voice, they can hear how beautiful it is, so they come to you and they can learn from you. Most people, when they perform in the Super Bowl, guess what happens? They become even more famous because let's say only 10 or 20 million people have seen them. When you're on the Super Bowl, you have over 100 million people that see you. Then there's a ripple effect and the residual exposure that comes from that simply by being in front of people. So marketing is to put your thing in front of people so people know that you exist. But most people fail because they're invisible. I get a lot of top CEOs, multi-millionaires, billionaires that come to me. They've got all the money in the world, but they themselves are not the personal brand. And nowadays, it's all about the emergence of the creator economy. Every business realizes now they need a media company, they need personal brand, and they need influence if they are going to win the game. And once we do marketing and sales, guess what happens? Money comes in. So then the next thing we have to do, we have to invest. You have to invest in a team. You have to invest in hiring good people. You have to invest in yourself. You have to invest in processes. You have to invest in marketing. These are the things that people don't want to do because they don't want to spend any money. I was with a girl yesterday. We were in this beach club and it was kind of like an after party for the keynote that I did a talk at. An incredible human being. She's got a massive mess. She's impacting a lot of people. And her phrase to me is, John, I'm making over 2 million. I'm not even spending any money on marketing. And my response was, imagine if you were. Imagine if you did. It wouldn't be 2 million, it'd be 20 million. My point is, it's all about investing. But most people will not invest in themselves. You ask people to invest 10,000 into their brain, they'd rather spend it on a Rolex. Rolex, yeah, it looks good, but your brain is your flex. This is the key. Another thing is, speaking of investing, the importance of reinvesting instead of spending your passive income. So you have two choices. So let's say, for example, I have a piece of real estate and I rent it for 1,000 a week. So let's say that makes 5,000. Let's say the mortgage on that right now is like, let's say 1,500. So let's say that makes 3,500 per month. I can now take that 3,500 and I can then multiply that over 12 months. So that would be an extra 42,000. Then what I can do, imagine if I take that money and I just put that into a digital currency like Bitcoin. Imagine if I did that 20 years ago. What people choose to do, you can take that 42,000 and you can go and blow that money on a Lambo or a BMW or a Hermes bag or a Rolex or whatever. Or you take that money and reinvest that money. But then people think, well, John, are you not just constantly reinvesting all the time then? Yes and no. That's why we need to have the bucket system. Based on all the money that you earn, a part of it goes to your play, a part of it goes to, your investing, and a part of it goes to your education. And when you do all these three things, what happens is you start to get more value in your life because you start to grow as a person. What I realize is your energy comes from how you are putting into your brain. It's quantum. Quantum is, it multiplies. We can be in multiple places at the same time where simultaneous realities happen based on a single decision. So if I decide to fly to Cartagena right now and I get to meet some of my friends who are billionaires and millionaires and they put me in contact with a fund manager and the fund manager says, hey, we've got this IPO happening. Do you want to invest? That's a conscious decision. And by the way, this has happened in the past. This is how I've been able to invest in companies early and now some of them are worth a lot of money. You got to make sure that you're doing this, and also as well, make it a weekly habit to track your net worth. What is your net worth? It's very simple. Take all the money that you earn and take all the money that you owe and minus it. Let's say most people make 100,000 or 50,000 a year. Look at all your expenses. Minus that off what you earn, including your savings, the money that you earn, the income, the equity you have in property, and then minus it and what is your net worth. That's what you want to think about. When we talk about unlocking money, the money creates net worth. What is your net worth? That's what you want to think about. And also, true wealth is built on diversity diversification. You've got to diversify. People say, I need to focus on one thing. No, don't focus on one thing. Focus on many things. When you say yes to things that you are aligned to, let me be very clear, not say yes to everything, say yes to things that you are aligned to, then opportunities come. A lot of people say no to things that they're aligned to, but actually if they say yes to it, they might leapfrog that process that shortcuts it. And here's another thing. You need to protect the downside and you want to scale the upside. What do I mean? Let me give you an example. It's not about how much money you make when you're right. It's about how much money you lose when you're wrong. And some people, when we talk about entrepreneurship, and most people right now, if you want to unlock money, you'll have to get into some form of risk. Risk and reward come hand in hand. But we're not taking a risk. We want to take calculated risk. We want to get information on that thing that we're going to do before we do. It's like you're not going to jump out of a plane without any training. That's very risky. Yeah, you can jump out and pull the thing and it will, right? But what if it doesn't? You need training. And also, you don't need to be lucky. You need to be leveraged. That's the key. Financial freedom isn't just reserved for people who are rich, and it's not reserved for people who are the elite. It's available to anyone who learns the game and plays it smart. This is how we leverage and how we can really understand financial freedom at its deepest core. And most people are not really focusing on this. Financial freedom is you need to make it important to you. The steps to be able to do that. Remember, marketing, sales, investing, these are 3 things you want to focus on. Do that and you'll be able to unlock money.